Well, welcome to Westshore Business, and welcome Kelly Darwin. How are you this morning?
I'm great, John. How are you?
Yeah, good. Usually
You're
when
beaming. You're beaming this morning.
Usually, when we do a podcast, you and I can sort of riff for a while because people don't know who the guest is or maybe
That's right.
don't see him. But now that we've moved towards Vodcast, we can't do that. And we now should introduce our guest because everyone can see her.
Yeah,
That is the mayor of Esquimalt, Barb Desjardins. How are you, Barb?
I'm doing great today, John and Kelly. It's so nice to see you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, actually, to see you this time as opposed to hear you.
Right?
Yeah.
We think we think the podcast platform is great, and we've been doing a lot of that, Kelly and I and others, and others are now noticing that it's a great way to get information out to the public. And we decided to ramp it up a little bit and do a vodcast. And I think that's just great. Keeps us a little sharper. And I had to shower, I had to shave. Oh my God.
You look fancy this morning.
But one of the great stories of Southern Vancouver Island is of course this explosion in Esquimalt. And we have talked about this with Barb numerous times last year. And it's just more than appropriate to ask her and give us an update. I think, Barb, you recently had a budget discussions at council, and we just thought it was appropriate. Give us an update. What is the status of what's happening in your exploding municipality?
Well, it's always great to be able to talk about Esquimalt because it really seems to be a happening place. Council is still in our budget process. We start much later than anyone else, and that's because we have such a significant amount of our revenue comes from payment in lieu of taxes, which is from the federal properties. And we don't know what the final payment for the year before is until sometimes into January. And so to be conservative and make sure that we're doing it right, we want to make sure we have all the information from the year before we move into the next year. So we have recently, though, gone through what are the capital projects coming forward and what are the supplemental needs for the community. We are looking at how do we minimize taxes, particularly for this year, certainly within our control, our municipal taxes, because we know that COVID is still affecting people, small businesses more than others, but residential taxes are important as well. So we're looking at keeping it down. What I can say to you right now is it's looking really good. And so as long as something doesn't come up in the next month, we should be looking at a very minimal increase to people. So that's good news. And part of that is because we effectively looked at, COVID impact very early and made the determination around how to minimize the extra staff that we had. So the auxiliary staff that we had way back in the beginning in the rec centers and those sorts of things. And also making use of the restart funds that we've got.
I was going to ask, has COVID had a big, either positive or negative effect on your operating budget? Like, I know that there's more things that you need to do, but there's also some things that aren't happening. Is that balancing out, or does it go one way or the other?
It significantly hurt in terms of revenue for recreation. But as I said, what we did at the very beginning is we looked at how do we minimize that, and so we gave long lead time, and then we needed to lay off our auxiliary staff. We've brought staff back in very slowly as we could with the reopening, but we really paid attention, even with our public works. How do we ensure that we, one, always have them working so that there's no impacts of COVID on delaying of projects, et cetera. But we kept everyone safe. So I would say to you that we're feeling confident that we weren't hurt as much as maybe other communities. And that, I think, was partly due to sort of, quick reaction and quick determination of what needed to be done.
I'm generally a positive guy. I try to always see things as a cup's half full. And there are times when I'm criticized for that there are other pieces to an issue. But I have to say, Barb, I mean, you guys are just rocking it out there. Unbelievable. Not only is the municipality growing and accommodating and listening to its constituency, but boy, the fiscal management. Hey, Kelly, like somebody going, we planned for this. We're going to try to minimize taxes. Who says that these days? Well, clearly Barb Desjardins does. Like, what is going on? That's amazing, Barb. Really. And just so many comments I'm hearing from people who are moving into the city, who live there, are going, wow, I took my wife through the other day and we were, she hadn't been through Esquimalt for a while. And wow. So much congratulations to you on that. Tell us any kind of updates on some of the myriad of projects that are going on.
Wow, yeah, we've still got a lot of projects coming in the door to staff and going through zoning applications, et cetera. But currently, we have just had come online most of the residential for the Esquimalt Town Square is now available. So that's 2 condo buildings and a rental building. With that project, there is a significant amount of commercial space and office space as well. And apparently significant interest from for the office space from government, from companies that work with Department of National Defense or maybe have projects down at the graving dock. We have an international flavor going on in terms of our restaurants, and that just seems to continue to grow. We've recently had 3 breweries come into our industrial park. 2 of them who are actually making their beer there, but they will also have tasting areas, et cetera. So we're, shifting a little bit as well. We also have Rootside and the Esquimalt Wine Company down in our industrial area. So
wow.
Kelly, we're going to have to do a Vodcast from down there.
You need more reasons to go to Esquimalt.
Right. Exactly.
Well, you add that to our Tudor House liquor store, and we have some very interesting things. West Bay Quay has risen right out of the ground. It's now at 5 stories out of 6. They're starting to close the building in. It is spectacular in terms of what the views will be and how they're building it is really high quality. It's also got commercial space, and there is about 4,000 square feet of commercial space down there, of which 6 units, of which 3 of the units are sold. So that's good in the context of this time. Most of our developments are now trying to add commercial space so that as we increase density, that addition of commercial space is going to increase opportunity. And of course, that also increases our disposable income in our community. And so all of those things make a vibrant community.
And this seems to be a trend we've been seeing. Langford and Colwood doing a lot of the same, is where you're having more commercial or industrial spaces move in. with the residential.
Yeah.
Like it's not, you don't go downtown now just for commercial. It's right in our neighborhoods, which is
Well, for a whole bunch of
great.
reasons, we've seen
Yeah.
municipalities first of all, they said it. First of all, we want you to live here.
Yeah.
And then it became, why don't you live and work here? And of course, the troika becomes live, work, and play. And there was a drawing out of let's just say not hypothetically, but there was a draw out of Victoria to keep people in the municipalities. That's accelerated with extraordinary planning, vision, leadership, to where now in Langford, Colwood, obviously Esquimalt, you can live there, you can work there, and you can play there, and you don't have to move too much.
And it's interesting too that if we look at those three municipalities, or Esquimalt, obviously you've been planning these things in advance, and then along comes the pandemic, and to live and work all in the same few blocks makes total sense in a world where you don't really want to go out anymore. So
yeah, and I think that Esquimalt is ideally situated because we're really kind of in the center of the region.
Yeah.
And so it's not hard to go one way. It's not hard to go the other way. And we are traversed through by great active transportation. We have a significant amount of bus routes that crisscross through us to take you wherever you need to go, if you need to go there. But we have also been working very hard in terms of what other types of modes do you want to use. And you could cycle from Esquimalt everywhere in the region. You can walk to Victoria easily. You can walk, all around our community very easily. So we really increased that walkability score for people. And the pandemic has just made us realize, oh yeah, I guess I can work from home. And you add that to our parks and the services that we have within walking distance, and families are going, I want this. I can, I can just use the stroller to take my family around, or I can put them on the bikes.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful walk. If you go, you can go all the way, I think, down by the West Bay Quay there, right? And that carries all along the water. And
yep, 25-minute walk or less, and you can be in Victoria, or you can be back out to Esquimalt as fast as well. And scenery like there isn't any other.
And speaking of walks, you have Sax Point, which is getting some updates.
Yes, it won an award for, I believe it was one of the best picnic spots. And it's interesting because that has absolutely catalyzed everybody to come and see Sax Point Park. And so you have to come in, wait your turn for a parking spot if that's what you're doing. But it's worth it because here you are in an urban park that literally has old growth, owls, eagles. You can see the sea life, and it's got everything from lovely gardens to a walk in the woods with a trail system that is just wonderful.
Yeah.
And our Gorge Park, of course, our pavilion is being built, and that is going to be an incredible asset down there. And we hope at following that development and implementation of programming there, that we'll be able to have a better way of accessing the waterfront through a kayak launch, that kind of thing.
Wow.
And
so
expanding on that forward thinking too, is I hear that Gorge Park's going to have EV charging stations.
Yes.
And a lot, is it all the new residentials in, I think, post July or something are required now to have charging stations in them?
Yes, we've been actually doing that just without the actual bylaw in place. Right. Just any development that comes in, and they are expected to provide us with EV. So now we've just formalized that. And it's that they have to put, the electrification in to get us to at least regular plug-in at all residential multifamily developments now.
That's great. I mean, one of the big things holding back, I think, that whole industry was people saying, well, this is really good, but there's not an infrastructure if I run out of juice. But having municipalities put that top of mind, I mean, that's going to help that whole industry expand, as people are going to go, okay, maybe there is more opportunity for me to charge. I'll take that jump and get an electric vehicle.
Yeah, and you're right, and we're also trying to ensure that commercial in some way ends up with EV as well. But with cars, with the batteries giving longer distance, having charge at home is probably going to be sufficient for many people, so that they can go out in the morning and come back at night and may not need to charge for a couple of days, or they can charge every day if they have their own plug-in. And you're seeing people adapt to that and get their own plug-in. There are several down at the marina for float homeowners, etc. The Esquimalt Town Square has an EV charging station for every parking spot for its residents. They actually put the station in, and so it'll be interesting to see the number of electric vehicles in there.
I'd really like to talk a little bit more about the sort of the psychology of varying transportation modes, because one of the drawbacks as politicians try to sway people out of the vehicle is that folks just go, I don't want to. Bike lanes are built, they're gorgeous everywhere. I mean, really, that's notwithstanding how they were implemented, but once they're done, they're just outstanding. The electric car, once it's been stated that as we start to get healthier and as we start to move out of COVID, which we are not in a position to do, some people think we are not, but as, let's say, September, we're all more vaccinated, etc., people are going to start to move around. We're going to see those car volumes accelerate. What has been your experience, Barb, around how people switch their ways of getting around? Like, what is the resistance point? Is it as strong as we think it is? Or do people go, hey, I'll try, I actually will switch? I'm curious about that, because that's a real lever towards solving this transportation problem here in Southern Vancouver Island.
Yeah. I think there's many factors to it. I think it's what has been your experience? Where do you live? Or where have you lived? And your age, obviously. And those things come into play. So when you're looking at a community like Esquimalt, we have our grocery stores, our municipal government, our library, our rec center, our arena, all within a 3-4 block radius. So and then there are 17 parks in Esquimalt in a 5-by-7 kilometer area.
17?
We value parks. We value that people can get out and go somewhere with their family. So they're all different kinds of parks. But what we've done is, I think the forefathers have done a great job in saying, how do you want to get around? Where do you need to go? And being active is a huge part of the health of our communities. So we want to encourage that however possible. We are right now in our active transportation planning session. but although that's for a strategy across the municipality around how we're going to get people more active. In fact, in 2009, Esquimalt adopted a pedestrian charter. And what that was about is encouraging people to walk more. Ultimately, that means also taking transit and those sorts of things. So we've been doing this for a long time. What you don't want to do, in my mind, is get to the place where you're challenging people that they have to make choices. You have to encourage them to make the choice. So for our new developments, we encourage them to provide bus passes to every resident for 1 to 2 years.
Wow.
If you realize you can go out your door, get into a bus and go where you need to go, and you can travel around on that transit all day long, that changes your habit. We also ask them to provide a moto or a car share of some sort, so that if they need a car for a day, they have the access there. So it's a whole shift in how they're doing things.
Well, certainly COVID, I noticed Kelly and I, in what we reported on and whom we chatted to, COVID changed the way that we sought guests, is around food security, around, it will forever change the way we view life. And one of the consequences has been a shift in lifestyle. Hey, Kelly?
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Hey.
And just prioritizing. You mentioned, the car share. We've gone from having 2 cars to 1 car because we realized that, well, we don't really need to. And now we can take that money that we would have, been paying to maintain 2 vehicles, and we prioritize that into, and then we get into the new things that John mentioned, like food security, and how do we make sure. And I guess, and it's probably a psychological effect in the community of always thinking, what if we get locked down again? How are we going to handle it this time? How are we going to make it better? What can we do different just for our own homes? And then that pours out. Taking that into account with your community planning is amazing. I mean, a lot of people saying this isn't our only pandemic. We're going to have more, or we're going to have other issues.
Yeah.
So paradigm shift.
We've seen that shift, Kelly, with a significant number of people now gardening, whether it's using their front lawn or their back lawn. They're putting in a garden so that they can have some of their own produce. The second thing is the growth of our, again, award-winning farmers market. Which started out with maybe 20 vendors. Last year grew to don't quote me on the number, but it is somewhere around 40 to 50. And this year they're looking at projecting possibly up to 70 vendors. So
I can't wait for that to happen. Wow.
Yeah. And that just speaks to how people are valuing fresh produce, homemade items, everything from bitters and tonics to beer to homegrown veggies to homemade soaps. It's the gamut. And the market is working hard to figure out, how do we make this market year round?
That's great.
And I believe they will succeed.
Yeah. If something good comes out of this, it's the awareness that we need to support local makers, whether you're growing something, making something, because we know now that if the world shuts down or we get shut off, we're going to miss a lot of things. There's certain things we just can't get because nobody here is making them. So hopefully we have that now, importance of, okay, maybe we pay a little bit more for this soap or a little bit more for these carrots, but we know that we're supporting somebody that is local and they're going to be here for us when we need them.
Yeah. Building upon the market and trying to have that implemented in the future. Why don't we spend the last bit of our vodcast here asking you to tell us what will be happening over the next, let's say, 3 months, which so much of that will be determined by the health of the province. I mean, our numbers are not getting better; they're just getting worse. Here we are, the end of March. So for those folks that think we're out of this, that is sadly mistaken. But there is active vaccine activity. What is some of the things you'd like to tell our audience? Which, Kelly, I'm just checking now. Amazingly, yet over 100,000. You know, people want to hear Barb. They want to hear about Esquimalt. And so yeah, the next 2 or 3 months, what's going to be happening in your fantastic municipality?
Well, let me start out with the fact that Archie Browning Sports Center is a vaccination center.
Okay.
And it
Wow.
has been open. I got some amazing numbers yesterday. It can accommodate up to 600 people a day getting a shot.
Wow.
It's reaching around the 450 mark at this point. So it has ramped up considerably. And so many people are getting their vaccination. And, you got to give kudos to Island Health, to Bonnie Henry, to everyone. Little glitch in the beginning in that rollout, but boy, is that starting to run more smoothly, and that's speeding up. So if you look 3 months ahead, based on what I heard yesterday, the anticipation is that everyone, including down to 18-year-olds, will have a vaccination by the end of June.
Okay. Wow.
So
that's great.
So that's that hope that we have that helps us start to look at what else do we want to plan in our community, or how are we going to do things. We know we can't do all the same things as before. For example, Municipal Hall is still closed. The rec center will continue to do what it can when it can, but it's all based on the public health orders. But we know those things are important. We also know that getting our ball fields ready for outdoor sports, the baseball leagues, etc., because at some point soon we feel that they're going to be able to use those.
Yeah.
There are a number of events that would have occurred in the next 3 months. One of them being Buccaneer Days. And what I've heard as recently as yesterday is that they recognize it's not going to be the same kind of Buccaneer Days. However, what they're thinking of is, I don't know if you remember, if you saw the articles around New Orleans and Mardi Gras, and what they did is, instead of doing the big celebration, everybody downtown in crowds, everybody went and decorated their house in the theme.
Oh.
So Buccaneer Days is going to do a contest around decorate your house in a Buccaneer Day theme. Make sure you come. That's going to be absolutely amazing, because people really love Buccaneer Days. We have our chamber doing food. It's called Feast in the next while. That's April 12th to 18th. And basically that's many of the restaurants in the area are doing a takeout option, and they want to showcase that. And so there's the invite for everybody to get out and go to our local restaurants and do that. Our Township Community Arts Council continues to move forward right now. They're doing Artist in Residence. They've also got the Township Classics that they went online with. Artist in Residence, people will be able to sort of walk through and see visually. But everything's being done with COVID still in mind, but also what if there are more parameters? I told you about the market. We have so many event groups. I know that Ribfest is still watching and waiting and seeing how they're going to.
But I'm waiting for.
But they're absolutely the difference between this year and last year is they said we can't do it. We just don't know. We've never seen this before, and we don't know what's going to happen. This year they're doing. We're going to do it. We don't quite know how it's going to show up, but we're
Mhm.
doing it. And for a community, that's so important because that's our social, our mental health, our physical health as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things going on in the next
Whew.
while, and we're not stopping there, but we will do it safely. And I just want to mention also that we have our public safety building moving forward. That is a brand new public safety building that we're going out for an alternative approval process to the community. That building also will house our police, our fire, but it'll also have commercial space in it as well. So there are a lot of things happening in this municipality to build on the great community that we've had.
Well, it's all sounding very optimistic, which is wonderful.
This is great. Okay, Kelly, our job. We're going to clone Mayor Desjardins
We need
and put her in every single political seat in this country. Barb, that's extraordinary. The vision, the leadership, the planning. And you can do those other things, but there's planning and consideration and listening. Wow. Okay. Well, we've got a good half an hour here, and I don't think I can take any more. I mean, this is extraordinary. So Barb, thank you. Kelly, thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah,
It takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a team to do all this. So I just want to make sure that we acknowledge not only myself, but the rest of council and the great staff we have.
Yeah.
And the great people of Esquimalt.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well,
Thank you
until
for the
next time, maybe we'll have a live shot, Kelly, from Ribfest.
I was gonna say, yeah. There's a
Let's
glimmer of
not
hope
wait
now.
that
With
long.
ribs and smoke on the horizon.
Yeah, we won't wait that long. Okay, have a great day.
Maybe we'll do a tour around the Buccaneer Day decoration.
sounds
How's
great.
that?
Yeah, and we could. With technology now, we could literally do whatever we want, wherever we want. So that's a great idea. Thank you.
All
I'll
right.
get my eye patch out. Yes, the pirate.
Nice to see you both.
Okay, take
Stay
care.
well, stay
Barb.
safe.
You too.